Let's welcome in the Center Square's education reporter, Esther Wickham, to discuss what's happening in schools across the country. Esther, your recent reporting on student-led demonstrations, there seems to be a double standard where some political expression is being punished, while others being encouraged, if not downright incentivized, with nearly $2 million from a teachers union. What's going on here?
Yeah, thanks, Greg. So just like you said, there's been a lot going on within K through 12 education, especially when we get into the political sphere. So specifically at Torrey Pines High School based in San Diego, California, there's been recent controversy around the Foundation of Individual Rights and Expression reporting that a student who was more conservative posted a pro-ICE, pro-immigration enforcement officer post on social media following multiple walkouts and protests for anti-ICE. Students and school staff, were encouraging this and doing multiple walkouts, and we're seeing that around the country. Defending Education has reported that in this year alone, there's been over 300 student walkouts for anti-ICE protests, and this is rapidly increasing. And so recently, the student said, we heart ICE, they're real Americans, and was suspended following that post. And so FIRE, the Foundation for Individual Rights and Expression, kind of clapped back and wanted to, hold the school district accountable because, like you said, there seems to be a double standard here. Students who are anti-ICE can have a walkout and have no pushback or no suspension, but this student who is pro-ICE gets a slap on the wrist. So following FIRE's, response to the school district and representing the student, his suspension was repealed and he was able to go back to school fine. But we're slowly seeing this increase in anti-ICE walkouts, and more students are following suit around the country. And just like you said, teacher unions are definitely getting involved in the political sphere.
And talk a little bit about this, because we've got May 1st coming up, and that's been traditionally an annual May Day event that certain people on a political persuasion will hold and host. They seem to now be using union dollars to train on this particular issue ahead of May Day operations.
Yeah, so the National Education Association, which is one of the largest teacher unions in the country, as we've known, the Center Square and multiple other media outlets have done reporting on their involvement in a lot of political organizations, political initiatives, and programs. And we see that again here within K through 12 education. It's reported that the NEA has provided $1.7 million when it comes to funding for the May Day 2026 training toolkit. And multiple teacher unions, specifically the NEA, this is not the first time they've been a part of initiatives like this. These toolkits include anti-U.S. immigration and customs enforcement messaging. This is according to an investigation by Defending Education, which is a nonprofit that has done a lot of work investigating within school districts to seeing, what is your taxpayer dollars at work here. And essentially, this program is 4 weeks of power, as the training kit is called. And it's basically a training series that's organized and it's led by multiple different initiatives and programs. So Free the Future, the Alliance to Reclaim Our Schools, and so on and so forth. And specifically within the $1.7 million, Midwest Academy received that amount from the NEA. And you got to think about, too, where is the NEA getting their money? Well, a lot of their funding is taken from membership dues from various teachers and school districts. And the way that they receive that money is for school districts to deduct a teacher's pay. And, how do teachers get their pay? Through the school district, through federal and state funding, which is taxpayer dollars. So essentially, NEA is getting hundreds of millions of dollars from taxpayers around the country. And so we see specifically here that $1.7 million going towards these anti-ICE initiatives are, in fact, taxpayer dollars.
It's one thing, I guess, to have a history class where they may say, let's, do a mock demonstration about, the civil rights movement from the 60s and 70s and what they may have looked like or felt like. But to use these resources to seemingly here, especially with the recent protests, student-led, we'll use that in quotes, student-led protests against ICE, and now they're revving up for May Day operations using these dollars. The unions always say, Esther, that they are focused on the kids. Does this focus on the kids, or is this more an election year, get out the vote drive?
Yeah, I mean, according to the reporting and according to, multiple people that are within the teacher union, and especially the leaders, President Becky Pringle of the NEA, she has been very vocal about her political affiliations. I attended this online Zoom meeting a few weeks back that was specifically a part of looking at the state of Minnesota and what's going on there. And something that she said was very much so encouraging these students in what they're doing, these political walkouts, walking out during school hours when they should be in class, and essentially, fighting for what they believe in, right? Anti-ICE. They want to protect their friends and family that they believe are being violated and assaulted on the streets. And so this is some way and the way they believe they can, promote change and call action and essentially, in their minds, hold federal officials accountable.
In other education policy updates, Esther, the U.S. Department of Education's Office of Civil Rights making it more clear how the Trump administration's interpretations of Title IX differs from the Biden administration. Developing story here, but we've already seen some of the dust settle a bit on several school districts. What's Title IX for those who don't understand it, and what exactly is the Trump administration clarifying here?
Yeah, so Title IX is a 1972 federal statute that essentially says that you cannot discriminate based on sex if you are a federally funded program, organization, and specifically schools. And so what we've seen since the president has been in office for his second term, he's really taken steps to bring back, as he believes, the original interpretation of Title IX, which is looking at biological sex, not gender identity. And we've seen, as the Center Square has reported, multiple investigations and lawsuits against higher education and school districts when it comes to transgender athletes in sports. And so specifically in this instance, the Office of Civil Rights has rescinded portions of 6 resolution agreements in various school districts. We have schools in Delaware, in the state of Washington, in California, as well as one community college here in California. And what we're seeing is they're saying previous administrations, so specifically the Biden administration, has expanded the interpretation of Title IX wrongfully or unlawfully. And according to the department, this expansion of Title IX, the statutory basis is applying to gender identity rather than biological sex. And so these school districts believe that they're complying with Title IX, right? Expanding that scope to include LGBTQ students, gender identity, transgender students. And the Trump administration is saying, nope, that's the wrong interpretation. We're not including gender identity within that scope for Title IX, and we're specifically focusing on biological sex. And you have to understand, too, it's not just the Trump administration saying this. In the summer of 2025, a federal court order actually struck down this interpretation of Title IX from the previous administration. So it'll be interesting to see how school districts respond and react to this new announcement.
And do you foresee any kind of legal consequences here, any litigation? I mean, we've already seen, as you mentioned, one federal court order, and then also the U.S. Supreme Court touching on these issues. How do you predict, having followed and tracked education policy here, some school districts across the country are going to react to this?
Yeah, I mean, I'm doing a follow-up story even today, and one school district responded saying that what they were doing previously they're complying with the law. This shouldn't be changed. There shouldn't be anything different. So I definitely think we're going to get some pushback. I can't foresee any lawsuits, but it wouldn't be a shock or a surprise, definitely, because the state of California especially has been a huge proponent for LGBTQ students and upholding, gender identity, transgender students in sports. And even though the federal government has taken steps to push investigations, to file many, many lawsuits, they continue to push back. And so it'll be interesting to see how they comply, if there's a workaround or what have you. But yeah, definitely a lot of school districts aren't going to be happy with this new decision and this announcement, because these specific districts that are being targeted are more blue states. So it will definitely be interesting to see how the story unfolds.
Well, Esther, we'll check back in on that and plenty of other education policy updates that people can find with Esther's work at thecentersquare.com.